You ever have one of those moments, that spark, that flash of insight where you just think, wow, this could actually change things? A brilliant idea. It really feels like the start of something big.
But here's the thing. An idea on its own, well, it's just potential. To have a real impact, to actually create new knowledge or solve a problem, you've got to transform it. You've got to shape it into a focused, structured problem.
And that's exactly what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to walk through the blueprint for turning that initial spark into a powerful, focused research problem.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with that journey from idea to a real problem. We'll define what a research problem even is. Then, we'll dive into this 5-part blueprint for setting your goals, making your case, and, this is the fun part, finding that gap where you can truly make your mark.
You know, this first step, taking that big abstract idea and refilling it into something concrete, it's probably the most important leap you'll make in any research project.
This is really the core principle. An idea is your starting line, but a research problem, that's your destination. It's kind of like the difference between saying, I'm interested in cars, and asking, how does the weight of an electric car's battery affect its range in freezing weather? You see the difference, right? One's just a topic. The other is a puzzle just waiting to be solved.
Okay, so let's get a little more specific. What is it that makes a problem a research problem?
This classic definition just nails it. A research problem isn't just some issue you have. It's a specific question about the relationship between things you can actually measure. It's basically a formal investigation waiting to happen. And the keywords in there are variables. So what in the world are those?
Well, to put it simply, a variable is just something you can measure or observe. So, in our car example, battery weight, the car's range, the outside temperature, those are all variables. Your job as the researcher is to figure out how they're all connected.
And these problems, they come in 2 main flavors. You've got your theoretical problems, which are all about expanding what we know, just for the sake of knowing more. Think about, like, discovering a new planet. Then you have practical problems, which are aimed at fixing something in the real world, like developing a better way to filter water. Both are incredibly important.
All right, let's get to the heart of it. How do you actually build one of these research problems? We're going to use a 5-part blueprint that gives you a rock-solid foundation for any kind of investigation. Think of it like this. There are 5 essential pillars. First, you got to know what you want to achieve, your objectives. Then you need to ask the right questions. After that, you have to prove why it's even important to ask them. Then comes the reality check. Can you actually do it? And finally, you figure out where your work fits in by finding the gaps in what's already known. Let's break these down. So we're going to start with the first 2 because they really go hand in hand, setting your objectives and then crafting your research questions. This is basically where you draw the map for your entire journey.
First off, it's so important to know the difference between your big picture goal and your smaller, actionable steps. Your general objective is like your North Star. It's the overall aim of your whole study. But your specific objectives, those are the concrete, measurable things you'll do to get there.
And the whole process works kind of like a funnel. You start with a pretty broad problem, right? Like the effects of divorce on women's self-esteem. Then you create a specific objective, narrowing it way down to a certain age group and location. And bam, from that, you can create a precise, answerable research question.
Okay, so you have a great, super focused question. That's awesome, but it's not quite enough. You also have to convince other people and honestly yourself that it's actually worth answering. It's time to justify your research.
So, to justify your work, you can point to a few different things. Is it super relevant to a big social issue? Does it have practical implications for a certain job or industry? Maybe it fills a gap in what we know theoretically, or, hey, maybe it offers a brand new way of doing research. You don't have to hit all of them, but you do need to be able to explain the value your work is going to bring.
And this leads us to a really practical, down-to-earth question. It's great to have an important problem, but if you can't realistically solve it, it's still just an idea. This is the viability check.
You really have to be honest with yourself here. Do you have the money, the people, the equipment? Do you have enough time? And this one's huge. Are there any ethical red flags that could stop you in your tracks? Answering these questions up front will save you a world of headaches later on. All right, so once you know your question is important and you know it's doable, there's just one last step. You've got to figure out where it fits into the larger conversation that's already happening.
In the academic world, this is called reviewing the state of the art. And it basically means you need to become an expert on what's already been studied about your topic. I mean, you can't add to a conversation if you don't know what's already been said, right?
As you're digging through all that existing research, you start to see the edges of what we know as a community. And then you can ask these simple but really powerful questions to find the gap, that unanswered question that your research is perfectly positioned to fill. This is where you make your unique contribution.
And this blueprint, it works for any topic. You can take a massive, complex issue like food insecurity in Haiti, and by defining objectives, checking its viability, and finding that knowledge gap, you can narrow it down to a focused, manageable, and truly impactful research problem.
You see, following this blueprint turns a vague idea into a powerful tool for discovery. It gives you the clarity, the structure you need to contribute something new to the world. So, think about that idea you had, that little spark. With this framework, now what problem will you solve?